Farlost, created by John Miro. 12. "Sorry," Dina grunted to herself as she pressed the adhesive bandage smooth against the scientist's head. His eyes didn't open. She strapped him down to one of the stations running down the side of the tank and pushed off, watching him float but stay beneath the strap. She didn't know the man's name. He'd come aboard with Beecham's group back at Mars, but that didn't make watching his pain any easier. Once she was clear, she pushed herself over to the conveyor belt built into a column running down the center of the tank. As she floated, she stared at the dozens of injured and unconscious people strapped down in the stations designed for the crew's comfort and safety as they weathered the radiation storm. So many hurt, she thought. She grabbed hold of the skinny, ladder-like handle of the conveyor and let it carry her down toward the center of the station. It was too crowded and too chaotic in the packed storm cellar to hog the free space with a long coast. She was forced to go slowly and look at all the many bleeding and moaning women and men as she traversed the 50 meters to the med station. The hammering on the walls changed every moment, thunderous and world-ending one moment, then a constant sandpaper scratching the next. Every little ping and pop squeezed her heart. It was exhausting, being so scared and being so helpless all at once. Ahead, she saw Dr. Sanders pass something to Raj and point at a woman with blood trickling from her ears. Raj nodded and kicked off the cushioned walls of the med station. Knowing they worked well under stress, Doc had drafted Gina, Murray, and Raj to aid him. Grant, the second shift doctor, was in the other cellar, or he was supposed to be. Each cellar should also have a nurse or two. There were 5 on board, but Doc was on his own in this cellar. No nurses at all. Dina tried not to think about what that might mean. "Doc!" She touched down beside Sanders, holding onto his bicep tight. He put a hand under her other arm, pulling her close. "Breaking regs, hon," she murmured close to his ear. He laughed just a little. "They can dock my pay, if we live." Still, a brief hug was all they had time for. "What do you need next?" she asked. Doc's eyes flitted to the open supply cabinets. He reached out and pushed a Velcro strap closed before the plastic boxes beneath it drifted all the way free. "I think that's everyone for now," he said. They both tightened their grips on each other as another thunderclap hit outside, setting off a chain reaction of groans and ticks from the walls, like a submarine narrowly escaping a depth charge. A second chain reaction of screams and sobs followed. "There's got to be something else we can do," Dina said. Doc smiled, the lined map of his face a beautiful life study. "Now, we wait, darling. I know it's not your strong suit, but the rest is up to Dwyer, and whoever's in CNC. We just wait. Praying might not hurt, though." In between the planets, the stars shine brighter than they appear on Earth. With no atmosphere to dull their brilliance, they become all the more like diamonds. Anything man-made reflects their light, and the polished and painted skin of Hascom Heliocentric Lab 6 stood out from the emptiness like a beacon. Or a firework, once the fragments of rock and dust began shredding the ship's skin. Oxygen, too, gleamed like a million tiny diamonds as it sprayed out from torn and jagged walls and froze in the deep freeze cold. Handfuls of minutes after the rocks began to kiss the stacks of gigantic, repurposed fuel tanks that encircled the spine of HHL-6, plumes of frozen and glittering atmospheric gases sprayed like crystalline arterial blood. The dying ship spun awkwardly, and more of its violated skin sloughed off in its uncontrolled tumble. All these death throes took place in the silence of the vacuum, while inside the craft groans escaped from the wrenched frame, and the chaotic drumbeat of impacts terrified all who waited for their end. Everyone in the command and control module of 6 was frozen in place, eyes trained on the acting commander and the brilliant scientist. For these few, the roar of the space debris shaking their fragile metal womb apart faded in the background as all assembled waited on their next words. "You want to take us FDL?" Lou said. "Your solution to death by tiny rocks is to kill us faster?" "Want to? Fuck no. It's not like we've got another choice." Beecham tapped 3 fingers against his forehead roughly, eyes crunched shut. If I can get a sustainable force field around us, we should hold together long enough to make a short jump. No time to plan anything more auspicious. Holy mothers, Burkov said. You haven't tested using force fields during FTL. Not outside a simulation. Hell, you've never tested your force fields on a live crew. No fucking way are you risking my life. At his station, a bark of laughter escaped Third Officer Villanueva. This isn't a sim. Those rocks out there aren't going to reset if this doesn't work like you want it to, Beecham. You paid for the math, Beecham roared at his patron, ignoring Villanueva. And the math is golden. As for energy, well, I never discharged the FTL pods. Now he looked over his shoulder at Villanueva, whose face was turning rapidly red. Yeah, you can find me for unsafe practices after you thank me for saving our lives. He looked back to Burkov. They can make a jump right now, and whatever external force makes ships go boom when they go hyperlight will be blocked by my force field. You're going to want to make it up to me for being an asshole when this is all over. Buy me another island. That's a good place to start. Jesus, Beecham, Alexei retorted. Remember USS Zeus? An armored battleship designed to withstand nuke impacts? Even she didn't survive FTL, and this thing's a bunch of balloons and tin cans by comparison. You are not risking my fucking life as a lab rat. I'm not keen on playing hamster in the microwave, Chief, Taggart murmured. Lou turned to look at him. How had such a big man crossed to her side so quietly? He smiled. But even if it doesn't work, going out fast beats asphyxiation or a spacewalk without a suit. Something in her started to break, hearing the proud, stubborn black man and former soldier reduced to weighing in on how he wanted his life to end. Then it made her angry again. All right, Lou called out in her command voice. Quiet now, everyone. She cast her eyes back to Beecham. Yes, he was a genius. And yes, he was like most civilians in a crisis. He was terrified. But was he terrified enough to see things as they really were? She couldn't see the arrogant prick ever imagining his life was truly over. Her instincts told her he really believed his pet project would save him, believed he could protect the ship and initiate a faster-than-light drive transit. Even after Burkov had invoked the specter of the Zeus again, Lou thought. She had heard a million reasons for why the government had been so foolish as to risk almost 50 lives chasing the dream of faster-than-light travel. Most of them amounted to imperialism. In every ruling body there were those who thought they were better. They were more deserving of the gifts of the universe than everyone else who had ever reached for that thing. So, of course, the universe would bend for them when it didn't bend for anyone else. In other words, fools. Of course, Zeus had been atomized like every ship before it and since to try. Lou shook her head and almost laughed, despite the pain the shake had stirred up. Are we there? She wondered. Is there no way out but to try FTL again? Was Beecham really so arrogant, so delusional that he thought his parlor trick with force fields could be the miracle escape HHL-6 needed? Then again, if the only other options were suffocation when the air ran out, or worse, having her lungs sucked out through her mouth when the vacuum clawed its way into the CNC, well, she was with Taggart. She'd rather go out in a big bang. Officer Okoro, mate your nav console with Dr. Beecham's terminal and plot a course. The words were out of Lou's mouth before she realized she'd said them. Farlost. Music by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Learn more at servingworlds.com.